What's up, heavy hitters? So today we're gonna go over what I call it military press, or what everyone else I hear is calling it standing strict overhead press. If you guys like saying all those words together, go ahead. I'm gonna call it a military press. We've been asked a lot of questions on how to do this, what's the correct form, how low should they go down, tons of questions. So we like to go over it and speak on how Topo and I get down on this military press. So let me take you through my version and my form and everything that I do to perform this exercise. Then after, Topo will explain his way, and he'll use the Mexican Bruce Lee to demonstrate. Let's get this money. Yeah. What's up, heavy hitters? So the first thing into military pressing is your hand positioning, your grip placement. So for me, I like to use the same grip placement that I do in the bench press. I use my ring finger on the first ring of the bar. Depending on the bar, it's probably gonna be different. This is a Texas power bar. So I use my ring finger on the ring. And that's the same position that I use in bench press. The next thing will be positioning your body underneath the bar the best way that you can. When the weight gets heavier, you're gonna have to get in an even wider position. So for me, I like to get under the bar with the wide feet position so I have a big base. And then once I lift, I'll kind of bring my feet a little bit closer together because I feel more stable. So yeah, that'd be the first thing. So before I lift it up, I'll just go over a few points because it'll be kind of hard to speak when I have the bar on my, well, not even on my chest, but in my face. So step by step, I get my hand positioning, same as a bench press. I get underneath the bar, wide base, so I have a lot of balance. Throw my butt underneath, my elbows. I want to try to get my elbows like as far forward as I can, just so I can keep the bar closer to my face instead of having it out here. Also, how far I bring it down to my chest is on how flexible I am. So I'm probably gonna only bring it down to about my chin or so. If I could bring it down lower, I would, but that's my mobility and that's as far as I can bring it down. So the question is, how far can you bring it down, or how far should you? It's gonna be basically on your body type and the mobility of your shoulders and of your body, I guess you would say. So I would bring it down as far as you can. If you can touch your chest, bring it to your chest. If you can't, go where you can. So that would be the next biggest question I get asked is, why don't you go all the way down? For my body type, I can't. The next thing would be bracing your core. It's gonna be, you should treat it like you're doing a squat. You wanna just keep your core tight, keep it engaged, keep it wide. You wanna get a big, deep breath in for power. You're gonna, like I said, you're gonna treat it like a squat, so you just want your core to be thick and ready to brace some heavy weight. I do strict press, and that's what we're going over. So I use no leg drive. It's all shoulder, upper chest, and tricep. So I'm gonna get my feet in the best position, a power position. I'm gonna have my core tight and engaged, and I'm basically just gonna press the bar up as hard as I can and hope for the best. Hopefully it gets up there. So let me take you through it. Got my grip, get under the bar, best position, wide feet, elbows trying to get underneath as much as I can. Lift, take a few steps back, brace myself, about my chin, brace my core, fire up. I guess the last thing would be bring your head through. And I say that's about it. Just work on that shit. It's gonna be consistency. The stronger that you get, the more weight you're gonna put up. So I would just work on these as much as you can. For me, overhead press is like raw horsepower for a stronger bench. It just works your lockout for me, all lockout and shoulders. So try that shit.
All right, so the overhead press, or the strict overhead press, military, AKA big boy style. I come from an Oli background, an Olympic weightlifting background, so overhead presses was probably 80% of what I trained when I was doing that type of programming. I did like a Russian style program, but you max out every single day in that type of lifting. So this is actually what a really detrimental, or not detrimental, but a very beneficial thing to learn how to do when I was in that stage. A lot of times that we do any type of overhead pressing, we're at an increased risk of injury. That's just obvious. We're in an overhead position this way. This movement right here, the rotator cuff has to stabilize a lot more, and that causes a lot of injuries. Snatch coming this way, people busting their elbows, shoulders that way. So learning how to do it efficiently and safely is your #1 goal in that. So the first thing we'll talk about is a front rack position. So if I'm here grabbing the bar, if my shoulders are internally rotated like this, I'm actually putting a ton of pressure on my AC joint right here. So if I'm holding the weight like this, so like having my shoulders kind of just tucked underneath like that. So what we want to try and create is a big shelf. So this is the same thing for a front squat. Big boy has such big lats that he has a huge front rack. That's why front squats is really easy. That's why shoulder press is really easy. But what we want to do is actually spread the lats underneath the shoulders, and that actually gives it the platform to actually stabilize that weight. So you see how he has such a big chest, and he brings the shoulders up with him this way, and he has to tuck his bicep underneath because that's where his lat is pushing his elbows at. That's why the mobility part is so hard, because he could bring it down this way, but then he has to internally rotate his shoulder, and now he's putting that shoulder in risk of injury. Okay, so what we actually have to do is, the way I teach it, is when I first come into the rack, I'll actually think about like almost like a front squat. So like if I'm coming here and then actually pushing my shoulders forward and then spreading my lats, that's actually a front rack position, okay? So that's how I know how to create a shelf. So same thing with this, you actually want to try and create that shelf with your shoulders, okay? So that actually makes sure that your lats are engaging in that position. If you sit like this, even when you're sitting down, if you sit like this, at one point in time, you're gonna try to get a prime press and your elbow will drift back, and then you'll probably press forward and then lose the weight too. So that's the biggest thing. First off is how to create a shelf. Once you create the shelf, then you can find out your hand position. So here, if I'm grabbing super close like this, but then trying to create my shelf, it's not gonna work very well. So you see how Big Boy puts his hands out to the rings because his lats are bigger, so he creates that shelf a lot better, like that. So biggest thing right here, don't let the shoulders come down and then pull like this. Spread the lats, make sure you're creating a big shelf. So the other thing is the hand position. So like if we've talked about our bench presses, grabbing the bar like this, or actually like this, isn't always good. You always want to grab at the fat part of the hand and then create that stack. So the stack between the wrists and the elbows. That's gonna make sure that we're not actually letting the thumb do too much work and then slipping out the thumb. They actually call it the heel of the hand. So when I actually punch, I punch through the heel of the hand, and that makes my stack stronger. Okay. So we're gonna have James come in, the Mexican Bruce Lee. So we're first just gonna have him come in and just do 2 or 3 reps, and then we'll just try to correct his form so like before, like the teaching is organic, and so that you guys can learn something from it. So the one thing you could already see is that he has a lot better mobility than obviously me, Big Boy, all the other guys. So that actually plays a huge part of why he's so much farther down. Now, if we could only have him trying to spread your lats a little bit more, like create that, really squeeze them, like almost like you're doing like a bodybuilder like spread, and let that sit on your elbows, like that.
So just like that?
Yeah. So that actually will create that power that's punching that lat through, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first part, and the last part is, like Big Boy said, pulling your head through. That actually locks that shoulder joint in. Okay, so if I'm in this position, if I stay like this the whole time, then that's like increased risk for injury. So once I lock my head in like that, and that actually is the rotation of the shoulder and then the elbow pushing out towards the weight, that locks it in. So we always want to treat it like if I want to lock the weight out, as if I'm going to do an overhead squat. You can't do an overhead squat like this or like this, but once I'm in this position, I can hold this weight because it's aligned with my ears, and that makes it a complete stack of my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders, down to my core, okay? So just try to think more spread of the lats, try to let it sit.
So wider grip maybe?
Yeah, so try a little wider grip and then let your lats spread. Okay. And don't focus so much on the shoulder joint itself, but the lats. Good, so really spread on these, really squeeze these guys. Good. Good, pull the head through. Try to line your ears with it. Better. One more. Go. So the right there is a little bit exaggerated with the head. So
Too much?
Yeah, so a little bit is too much. It actually rotates the elbow back a little bit more. But you have the idea though, right? Like coming through and that stacks it right there. But you can see that once he started really using his lats, they actually became more powerful with the explosion part. But now it's finding the bar path and how to actually track the elbow to find that lock position. Because once I made that cue to him, he didn't know exactly where he was going because it was foreign. But you could see that when he got up to here, it became a better lock position for him. Because now it's not as, stability-wise, it's not as insecure. All right, so talking about the front rack, that front rack position creates a chain reaction down to taking the rib cage down. That's when we talk about engaging the core the proper way. So that chain reaction comes all the way down to where our legs should be. So obviously, like if you don't have good stability and the foundation isn't created properly, then that won't create any power. With the standing military press, it's two different things of what your goals are. Are you looking to try and create power through, transferring over to your bench press, or are you actually an Olympic weightlifter? Those will always depend on those, but I always do two different stances. One's a more level stance, so an athletic stance. So just standing just proper, like with the hips, their feet underneath their hips. But my go-to to take the pressure off my back is the staggered feet. Big Boy doesn't do like this, but I've done it this way just to create a little more balance for myself. Having it this way in a strict press actually takes that bend out of your back, because a lot of times that we'll get to this position and then we'll want to bend our back to try and like get this weight up to try and pull our head through. So that creates bad habits. So things that we don't want to do is engage our lower back. It causes us to not engage our core. So let's just have James come in and just try the two different foot positions. So go ahead and do your regular position. Try to do the keys that we try to talk about. Try to use the lats, pull the head through, lock it with the ears, the biceps to the ears. So don't over exaggerate it. But we'll do the normal feet first, and then we'll do a staggered stance and see which one you like better. Because everyone is honestly different. So just do 2 reps. Okay? Nice. Better. Good. So you see how you actually create more power now that you're focused more on that? So that actually, you can see him now like pulling, because it's more natural now, that he's actually pulling his ears to his biceps, and that lock position is so much more natural for him now. Okay? So we'll take a second and then you can do the stagger. All right, so now we're gonna do a stagger stance. So we were just talking about when we were on a break that the stagger stance actually gives you more anchored in position because you're not as one-dimensional. So I get width and length of the stance. If I'm right here, this is really one-dimensional, more horizontally. So like whenever I'm pressing and I'm pressing a heavy weight, that stability might actually cause me to fail because I have to worry so much about stability. So we're just gonna, he's never done it before, so we'll just see how his body reacts and see just naturally if it felt more comfortable for him or not, just like you would. So just do 2 reps. So left foot forward or right foot? So whatever foot that you are going forward with is the same foot that you would walk up to a step for. So thinking if you walk up to steps, whatever dominant foot that is the foot you want forward. Okay. Like that? Yeah.
The wide stance.
It's the wide. Yeah. So it's all preference too. So it depends on if whatever like experience you have. I have an experience with doing a push jerk. So like the actual stance of actually splitting. So that stance was actually comfortable for me because I would actually have to do 400 pounds holding it like this. If you've never done that before, then it might be an uncomfortable stance for you. So neither one of them are wrong. He has a wide stance for a strict press. I just told him that if he were to bring a stance in, that would be more like a push press. So actually having that leg drive to pop the hips through to get the weight up. So that's more of a dynamic movement opposed to a strict press. But you can see those 2 different movements change for him, right? Just off the stance alone, it's your preference. I mean, whatever feels like comfortable for you and what'll keep your back safe, your shoulders safe, But I think if you use all those key tools, especially if you create the front rack, that's going to create a shorter core for you that makes it wider and stronger, and it'll give you more power out of your lats too.
All right, heavy hitters. I hope this helped out. Mine was a little bit different than Topol's, but maybe you guys can relate to mine a little better. And the people that don't understand mine and want to go into lots of detail, Topol will definitely break it down for you. And man, that shit helped me out as well. It was a lot of knowledge and a lot of good things to learn and points to cue in while doing this lift. The biggest thing that I noticed just from watching James do it is when Topo told him to kind of bring in and engage his lats, I can automatically see his power being a lot stronger and more explosive. I think a big part of this exercise is if you let the bar, even like on a bench press, if you just let the bar come down and then try to explode off of that, you're not going to have the explosion and power as if you're kind of pulling the bar down into your lats and then exploding up. You want to control the bar. I know they always say to bring it down fast. You don't want to have too much time under tension because it can exhaust your body, but you also don't want to do it without any control. You want to control, engage your lats, and then explode off of whatever position that you bring it to. You want to explode and use your lats for explosion. Am I right about that?
I think at any point in time there's a gray area, right? So there's a too fast and there's a too slow. I see that a lot in my athletes competing too, is that sometimes you think too much and you come down too slow, exert yourself too much, or you come down too fast and you don't trust that bar path of that whatever muscles are trying to engage to stabilize. I think that's a testament to our trainings that we always are using lats in all these exercises, because that is one of the primary movers or one of the biggest stabilizers that you use in any lift: squats, bench press, deadlift, shoulder press. So you can see we just made a slight tweak on James and his shoulder press got better. Just like he said, that's a stabilizer, so that he's actually creating power instead of actually just trying to react to power. That little pull down is actually creating that coil to punch that muscle group. So lats for us is a huge muscle group that always train and always emphasize.
Yeah. So just make sure you cue into all of Topo's points, and you pick your feet stance, you engage your core, and you're also engaging your lats when you bring the bar down and also firing off. I hope that helped you guys. This is just another tip and another exercise that we wanted to go over that we got lots of questions on. If you guys have questions on any other exercise, whether it's a movement in the gym, whether it's even Topo has talked about his core, or a prevention exercise that you guys want to see, comment below, let us know. And if you guys are looking for more than just instructions on how to do an exercise, we also have 2 programs online at StrengthCartel.com. We have the heavy hitter program for strength and size, which will just overall give you more strength in the gym, building it up, and also size if you guys are looking to put on a little extra mass. And we also have the dead game program, which is a 12-week peaking program that'll get you right for any competition that you got your eye on. It's the same thing that Topo and I both use, whether it's off season as a heavy hitter or prepping for a competition. Dead game program, the same formula that we use, and this shit is proven to the test, So yeah.
And then the heavy hitter program, just to reiterate, it's a 4-section program. You have to buy them separately. So it's a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. It's a year cycle. So we wanted to write something that you could use year round, and even when you're done with that, just restarting that cycle and then doing it over again. Because
with your new numbers.
Exactly.
So even though you may do it for a whole year, your numbers have gone up. You would need new programs with your new numbers, because each program, believe it or not, is catered just to you. This is not going to just give you percentages that you have to calculate in. This is going to give you personalized numbers for every single day, every single week, for every single lift that you guys do.
Exactly.
So this definitely has some big time value that we like to give you guys, even though it may not be the best interest in us to give that much time, because time is money and value, but we value your guys' support, so we like to give back. Just like these videos, man. We're not here to get rich off of this, but we value your guys' support, and we want to show our appreciation and give back the little bit of knowledge that we've learned over time, and also the knowledge that Topo took years in school learning. So that's value in itself right there. Yeah, we appreciate you guys supporting, and we hope you guys keep watching and keep learning. So appreciate the love, heavy hitters. Keep banging.